Hello and welcome to another episode of Saddleback Arts Live at Home. I'm Scott Farthing. I'm the Interim Dean of Fine Arts and Media Technology here at Saddleback College. And today we have one of my absolute favorite people on the planet. My dear colleague, Deidre Cavazzi, who is chair of the dance department. Deidre and I have collaborated for many years with a lot of projects, and Deidre is incredibly creative, incredibly kind, and is so innovative to what she brings to choreography and to dance that it is always a treat to see what she comes up with. And I'm so happy she's here today to talk about quarantine choreography. Deidre, welcome.
Thank you so much, Scott.
So what is the thing of choreography? What makes choreography so beautiful that you do?
Well, I mean, the thing that I love about choreography is it's really storytelling or abstract expression through movement. And it could be the simplest gesture or the grandest, most virtuosic performance. And as human beings, we all have bodies. So movement is something that's natural to us, and you might say at home, oh no, I have two left feet. But maybe you have a beautiful set of fingers on your hand and you can move those magically around and make something amazing. So choreography can be created on many different levels. You and I have collaborated a lot in musical theater, which I love. And then I also work extensively in the contemporary modern dance world, as well as dance theater. So something that I particularly love is the ability of dance to translate ideas into movement. So I've done a lot of interdisciplinary collaborations, working with colleagues across campus and even across continents to look at science, to look at humanities, to look at all sorts of ideas in a new way and explore it through the performing arts. And I find that that ends up being really delightful for our students. I've done pieces around quantum physics and Fibonacci, climate change, ecosystems, banned books. And so it becomes a really fun exploration for us as artists to interact with people from other parts of academia. So that's what I love most about choreography is it can be done on so many different levels.
And you always bring such a unique idea. It's like, one of the things I love about academics is that we are all charged with not just expanding the minds of our students. We hopefully we do that, but it's also we're expanding the field, right? Our individual fields. We hope to add a little bit more information each time. Yeah. And I think that's something you do so beautifully is because you pair these things up in such a unique way. And I know one of your specialties as well is site-specific choreography. One of our first projects was working in the library together. Yep. And you had dancers on top of the shelves and in the hallways, and it was so beautiful to see all of these things come together. So now in the age of our quarantine and COVID, how is choreography changing? How is dance? How are you adapting?
So I think one of the biggest things, the biggest challenges that artists all over the world are working with right now and in the past months is adapting to working alone, but still creating community together. And so, of course, we've looked into our computers, we've looked at technology to make that possible. And luckily, we live in an age where there are so many great applications through technology that can link us together and create new spaces and places for us to make art. So the past few months, I've gone into my computer. So screen dance or dance for camera has been an existing genre for quite some time. I mean, think of like a music video or a short film that's based in movement. So that, for choreographers, has become a renewed medium of creation. So how can we create work on screen that can be seen in a bunch of different ways? And I think that is, there's a lot of challenges with that, right? We're used to working physically. Dance, we're used to doing partner work and duet work and breathing and moving together, which is just not safe right now. So figuring out how can can we replicate that experience across screens and across distance? What can we create? And I think this is the ideal time to collaborate, to reach out to other people and create things together, to bring different disciplines together. One of the cool things, though, is that we're no longer bound by geographical reason. So I've loved getting to attend webinars and watch performances in far-flung places throughout the globe, which I would not have had the capacity to do otherwise. And I think it's also opening a lot of doors for artists to collaborate across great distances. Right now I'm actually working with some colleagues in Ireland, and we're working on a nanotechnology and neuroscience project using dance, and actually we're going to do it here in the fall. Yep. So I'm setting it on students here. I'm going to create work. So I just had a Zoom call this morning where we talked through some of the ideas that we're going to be working with, some of the scientific themes that we're going to think about translating. So I think it's opening some doors in a lot of ways, this working across distance.
Circumstances make us, we have to think creatively,
yeah.
Right? And as artists, another one of our colleagues always talks about artists are about solving problems, right?
Yes.
And I think it's so beautiful. Now I know you've worked on some things for today. Mm-hmm. So your first video, show us.
Okay, so I thought, especially for all of you who are watching at home, so I attended a talk a couple years ago given by J.J. Abrams, the filmmaker.
Wow.
And he said something that has just stuck with me. And that's the fact that he said, you know, we all carry a motion picture quality camera around with us in our back pockets. Cell phones are amazing. You know, there's no reason why we all can't be going out there and making great films. So that's something as dancers that we're certainly looking into now. How can we use our cell phones to create and share work more and more? So this first piece is a little short piece, and it's based around gesture. So in choreography, I'll give you some terms really quickly. So in dance, we talk about pedestrian or virtuosic movement. And pedestrian movement is just the everyday sorts of things, right? Gestures that you might do just in your daily life. Whereas virtuosic, right, that's the leaps, the turns, the kicks, the things that we think of in the studio with dancers. And sometimes a pedestrian movement, a simple gesture, can be really, really powerful, especially when we're looking at work on screen, right? You take a stage like this, and right, you could have a whole ensemble of dancers, you could have a soloist in this space. And the audience, right, if you're sitting out in the house, you could be looking anywhere. Maybe you're captivated by the beautiful blue on the cyc back here. You know, maybe you're looking at my feet. Maybe you're sort of looking up into the sky. I don't know where the audience is looking, but on a screen, I can control the eye of the viewer. And so the use of detail work becomes very, very important. What angles am I choosing to film things from? Am I close up? Am I far away? How is the camera moving to support what's in the frame or what's absent from the frame? So this first piece, it's just a little simple piece that I did at home, and I thought I would play with a deck of cards. And so I intentionally did not use a lot of virtuosic movement. I wanted to keep it around simple acts like shuffling or trying to build a house of cards or tossing the cards out, but playing with how I set my cell phone up to film that, where I chose to edit, and how I chose to bring all of this together. So I'm calling this Queen of Hearts. And the music for this is royalty-free, of course, and it's called Plasticity by Ketsia, the artist Ketsia. So enjoy. So anyways, that was a little piece that I created. As I said, I call it Queen of Hearts. It's based on just that gesture. What can you do? How can you play with a deck of cards?
So you were using, so there was the choreography, the pedestrian gestures, then the virtuosic,
A little bit.
right? Well, for those of us who are not dancers, that was pretty virtuosic. But you also were playing with light, with texture. I was noticing the stripe against the solid black. You were playing with the placement of the color, like when you introduced the red. So choreography is even beyond just the physical movement, it's the creation of the entire picture.
Absolutely, and that's what, like our students in our choreography classes, we really emphasize that in any performing arts, right, it's always going to be this medley of all of the different technical elements of theater. So yeah, I intentionally chose that sort of chiffon netting skirt so that you also had some transparency, right, with the light shining through that and then up against the floor. I used Adobe Premiere to tint it all black and white, but then highlight the red on the cards only in some of the shots. And then wearing those striped tights I thought would be an ideal contrast to the shapes, the textures on the cards as well as in the costuming. And with Queen of Hearts, I also wanted to give a nod to Alice in Wonderland. So with that horizontal filming of it, compressing the space, when I stood up and used sort of the wall, I wanted it to almost be, for me, I was thinking of the part where she grows so large that she barely fits in the room. And so there was this sort of compressed feeling of space in some of the sections, just based on the space that I was in, right? My cell phone couldn't go back far enough to get a really, really wide, tall shot of me. So I chose to really use that compression to my advantage in the filming of it.
So you just literally used your cell phone?
Yep, just my cell phone, yeah.
That's really stunning, but necessary. I mean, it's
Right.
like this is. I also am always struck with the wealth of information that has to be at an artist's fingertips, like the amount of references that inform our artistic choices, right? I mean, the science and the color and all of these things and the literary references.
Yeah.
And so how do you then, like when you're teaching that, and you're teaching the importance of knowing history and knowing quantum physics, right? How do you do that for your students? And because I know they get it. I know they get it.
Yeah.
But what is your philosophy in relaying that information?
Well, I think as an artist, you know, we hear the expression lifelong learner, and that is certainly something that applies to an artist, right? To be an artist is to be an explorer of the world, to be infinitely curious about everything, and to not be shy about drawing in things that interest you, right? We all have our own passions, our own hobbies, and how can you let those other interests in your life inform your decisions in art making? Maybe your audience doesn't get all of the references, and they don't need to. In fact, to me, one of the most beautiful things is when somebody comes up and talks about, oh, I saw this in this piece. And maybe as a choreographer, that was never the intention. I think that is the most wonderful thing to hear, because as individuals, we all bring our own memories, our own interests into everything that we see. And so we really let ourselves inform the work that we make, but also the work that we view. And that's the beautiful thing as well. How can you give space for interpretation? And how can you also celebrate what others see in something that maybe you missed? And maybe that's an opportunity for next time.
Right, and great art, it always allows for interpretation. In fact, the more you can talk about it and see so many different things, I think sometimes the better the art is. If we can talk in terms of better or worse or whatever, you know, I try to stay away from that. But, so now, your next example that you have done for us, talk about that.
Okay. So I thought that it would be really fun to ask some of our incredibly talented students to be part of this project here. Yay! So Sabrina Alvarez, Fiona Freeland, Erin Milne, Yvonne Campuzano, and Daisy Ortega, thank you so much. They're watching from home. So I asked some of our dance students, right? I sent out an email and I asked if anybody might be interested in being part of a little digital dance project. And the 5 of them were game and they said yes, absolutely. So what I did is I filmed myself doing a 1-minute phrase, and the version that I sent to them, I broke it into 2 halves and I sent them the phrase filmed from behind because it's easier to learn when you can look at something moving the same direction that you are. And then I sent them another version where I talked slowly through the movement, because normally we would have rehearsals together and we would be in the space and I could do the movement multiple times. I could watch them do it. And certainly in fall we're going to be using Zoom to have rehearsals and to have that dialogue. But for this, I intentionally wanted to send them something and then have them just send me something back. So first, I'll show you the phrase that I sent them, and then I'll talk through a little bit what we did with it. So, so this here is the 1-minute phrase that they got.
After 15 seconds left.
So that was just a little short phrase, and if you notice, I made it so that it didn't take a lot of space. There were certainly turns and things in it, but it was meant to be confined to space. So I sent them that phrase, and like I said, I sent it in 2 chunks, and then I sent a broken down slow motion version of it. And I asked them to please film themselves somewhere in their everyday environment, not a studio space, but somewhere in their house, in their yard, in a park that they've been walking in, somewhere that they're spending time in. And they had a choice. They could film it full body, an unusual angle, or a detail shot, or all 3. And then I gave them a deadline to send it back to me. And I also asked them to please record themselves saying hello so that all of you at home could get to meet them. So you'll hear from them in just a moment. And I didn't give them the music, so I said, you know, just record it in silence or record it to whatever you want, because I wanted to take that and then sort of shuffle it up and see what I could create out of it. So I'm going to show you 2 versions of it. The first version, first you'll hear an introduction from each of them, and you'll see in this one, I didn't mess with any effects. There are no effects at all. The movement, I kept it at the same speed that they had recorded it at, so there are no unusual changes in effects or editing. I chose to use a very mild transition for the editing, and I kept the phrase pretty much in order. So it transitions from one person to another, but the phrase, which you just saw, you'll recognize. It's the same order of that phrase. So let me show you, and you can get to meet the dancers now.
Bonjour, my name is Sabrina. There's many reasons why I love dancing, but I would say one of my favorite is because I get to share this passion with all of you.
Hi, my name is Erin Milne. I'm 18 years old, and my favorite thing about dance is the fact that it gives me the opportunity to express myself however I want, whenever I want, even when I don't have the words that fit what I'm feeling.
Hello everyone, my name is Daisy, and the thing I love about dance is the release of raw emotion through movement that feels euphoric, therapeutic, and beautiful.
Hello, my name is Yvonne Campuzano, and I love dance because I think it's a great way to be able to express yourself, and it allows you to be able to communicate and connect to others in so many different ways.
Hi, I'm Fiona, and I love the freedom and creative expression that can be accomplished through dance. Plus small things like this that show how dance can be performed and enjoyed anywhere.
And I intentionally wanted to capture that in because really that's how all of our cell phone dances we make end, with us coming really large into frame and then pressing stop
and
on the recording. Yeah.
Yeah, that was beautiful. And it struck me how the choreography, depending on the setting, you know, that it's the same choreography, but it always looks different in context.
Yes. And that's something that we always talk about in dance classes, right? You could take the simplest movement, you know, so maybe I have this sort of little scooping movement, but I can do that in a myriad of different ways. You know, I can make it fast and angular. I can make it really sort of slowy. I can add something to it. So movement, you know, you can look at it from a totally different angle and it looks very, very different. So depending on how we look at movement, where we set it, what the speed, what the intensity, what the expression is for it, it can look very, very different. And so it was really fun to see, and I had no idea where any of them would choose to film, and I loved all the places that they chose. And also I intentionally, one of Yvonne Yvonne's dogs. She has 2 dogs, Mochi and Nala, and I'm pretty sure that was Nala. When I saw there was a section where Nala walked through the frame, I thought, okay, we have to use this.
Absolutely. that had to be there.
Yes, because that is, I think, one of the most beautiful thing about finding these communities at home, right, and over screens and distance, is I just love seeing pets wander into the background when we're in Zoom classes. I love that.
Right.
Or small family members, right? I think it's really, really wonderful to see the extended community that now is part of our classroom when we are online.
And it also informs what they've done. Like, I was in a meeting today, and one of my colleagues had her little girl sitting on her lap during the meeting, and it just was really sweet. Right?
I love that.
And the humanity that it all creates, because we're all in this situation together.
We are.
Right?
We are.
So
yeah.
now you took these. Now what did you do with it?
Okay, so, and first of all, I've called this sort of sequence of this 2-part sequence, Dancing Alone Together. And so for the second one, it's the same footage, right, the same raw footage that they sent me, but this time I tinted everything in black and white to sort of give it a better through line, and I played with effects. So you'll see I played with speed. I intentionally set it to a very different track. That first track was also by Cavazzi. It was called Ghost Byzantine, and the second one is from Ben Sound, and it's called All That. And the music's got a very different feel. I intentionally used very jarring video transitions, lots of slides and pushes, and sort of screen separations, so that it was more aware, whereas in the first one, I didn't play with any effects, and I used a very simple dissolve, so that it was more about the continuity, the flow through of the movement.
Right.
And this one, I wanted it to feel more abrupt and segmented. So this is the second version with the same raw footage. So that was a very different feel, hopefully.
Right. It's okay. I want to ask some really basic questions.
Okay.
How long did that entire project, from the initial filming of the first phrase, for them to do their part, you to edit it, how many hours was that?
Oh, goodness. Well, I think in late June, maybe mid-June, I sent out an email to a bunch of students to gauge interest and to see who might like to be part of that. And then the students that emailed me back and said yes, I then, created a little folder for them, and then I recorded, in an afternoon, I recorded all of the phrases of me doing it at the different speeds and with explanations, put it in the folder. I used a Gmail folder, and then they had a week or 10 days. I can't remember if I gave them 7 or 10 days. July 3rd was the deadline for them to send everything back. So then at noon on July 3rd, I went into the folder and saw what was in there, and then started going through all of that. And then, ended up downloaded it to my computer, and then imported it into Adobe Premiere and started working with that. So first, I used their introductions and made the introductory one, and that was pretty simple and straightforward. And then I made the Ghost Byzantine, the first one that was in full color.
Right.
But there was a lot of footage, so it took some time to, I wanted to watch everything to make sure I had a sense of what was there, so that then I could go through and start pulling things out and figure out how I was going to use most of them had filmed horizontally, some of them were vertical, so then how could I resize everything to make it fit and look seamless. So then I spent another day and did that, and then a third day making the last one that you saw, the black and white version of it.
That's incredible, really. and they're not in classes.
Right.
This is not part of any class.
No, it was just their generosity to do this on their own time.
And your generosity as well, right? By doing this project for us. And I think it's so important for our audience and people here to see the people behind the things that they get to see on stage, and maybe get a glimpse into what your class would be like, right?
Yeah.
Because, to take a class with you would be to take a class in the entirety of humanities, and but really, because you're learning literature and you're learning music and you're learning all of these wonderful things, and what to do in this with all of these things that are blocking us from being together and being on stage, but you can make beautiful art out of that.
Yeah, and so our choreography class, no dance experience is required, because you can translate anything around you into motion. When we've had it on campus, every semester we have students in there that are brand new, that have never danced before. Maybe they're film studies majors or music majors or humanities majors, and they're just interested in working with the body. And now this semester I'm really excited. It's going to basically be video choreography. So in addition to really exploring gesture and these different ideas, they'll also learn basic editing. So they'll learn how to use programs like Adobe Premiere. And how to work with apps in their camera to make effects, so that even if they're making it just a post on Facebook or on Instagram, they can make something cool that's movement-based or gesture-based.
I'm thinking of all the people that would so benefit from that kind of experience. I'm thinking of, my world in music, and how you understand a melody by moving to it.
Absolutely. In fact, we within our dance major, we require everybody to take music appreciation for exactly that reason.
And every singer should be able to understand what having a gesture is. I was looking at I've seen conductors, do a lot because it's the same. I think about the artists that draw people, and wouldn't that give another layer of interest to watch how your own body moves when you're painting and creating on paper?
Absolutely.
I just think the lessons in this are profound and can cross so many. The athletes should take this.
Yeah.
Right?
We have had members of the football team I've had them take modern dance because they want to gain flexibility, they want to get a little bit more coordination and movement within their spine. But absolutely, we all have bodies, but sometimes we're not, your body is your home, but some of us aren't comfortable in our bodies. And so dance is a great way to give somebody confidence.
And I think that you hit it, that we're so taught in so many levels to be ashamed of our bodies, or to not fully embrace what we are as physical human beings. And what a wonderful way to start appreciating the shell that we all have
Yeah.
and using it in a different way.
Yeah.
And I think of all people to be teaching that, I think what a wonderful thing for you, for us to have you here.
Oh, well, thank you.
And I know that everybody that takes your classes are always so, they become better people because of it. They do. I mean, they
It's not
really
guaranteed,
do.
though.
Yeah, it's not a guarantee. That's not in the syllabus. You don't have to be a better, to get an A, you don't have to be, but at the same point, because you're opening the world in so many different ways through something that for many of us, we were taught, well, you don't have any talent in dance, so you can't
That breaks my heart.
Right?
That just breaks my heart when I hear people say that, or somebody comes to class and say, oh, I took a studio class and they told me that I had no talent. That is not true. Martha Graham, right? One of the greatest American choreographers. She didn't even start dancing until she was in her 20s. And
Wow.
she also was told when she started out, like, oh, you'll never amount to anything. It's too late, too little. And she created this own amazing, powerful, passionate, athletic movement vocabulary, all of her own. And she was one of Time's top 100 people of the 20th century. And I love the fact that she did not start dancing until she was an adult. She didn't have the ability to take studio classes when she was younger. It wouldn't have been something that was okay with her family. And so it is never too late to decide you want to take a dance class.
It's never too late, and it's always, you're always going to be welcome.
Yes.
And I love the fact that our students can come here with just an inkling of desire that they want to do, they want to try something new,
Yes.
or they want to improve, or you have really, fabulously experienced dancers as
Yes,
well.
absolutely,
But that
all.
you make a safe space for all of them.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about you as a colleague, and with what the generosity of spirit that you bring to every project that you do. And I hope that your classes are so full and so open and warm, and that there's that it's always a party. Even if you're just in a computer,
Right.
and you're in your own space,
Yes.
it's still important. That community is still important.
That's right. And cats and dogs are welcome in your screen space, too.
Absolutely. Absolutely they are. Deidre, thank you so much for sharing
Thank you so
with us
much.
today.
And thank you again to our students. Thank you to Fiona and Aaron and Daisy and Yvonne and Sabrina for being part of this project today. I appreciate you very much.
And thank you very, very much.
Yeah.
And next week, Dr. Ariel Alexander, who is co-chair of our music department, she teaches commercial music. And you have heard her music at some point in your life. If you have a TV and have been watching anything in the last 3 years, you have seen something that Ariel has worked on. And she's going to be talking about how using technology in music today and what goes into it. It's amazingly interesting. So next week, Thursday at 5, thank you all so much for joining us. Have a good week.